All right, welcome to the Ravit Show. We are here at PostCon 2024, and I have Noah from Postman with me. Noah, first of all, welcome to the Ravit Show.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be on it.
Yeah, the 2 days I think has been so energetic. I've been loving the vibe of the Postman community, and obviously the developer community here are learning so much. I wanted to definitely chat with you more about public API network, but a lot more what you've been doing in this space. But would you like to introduce yourself to our audience first, and also let us know what you're working on?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Noah Schwartz. I joined Postman a little under a year ago. Prior to that, I was at AWS for 6 years. I looked after a bunch of AWS Marketplace. And as Ravit said, I'm looking after the Postman Public API Network here. And I think just to sort of double click on what that is and why it's important to us, and for those watching the keynote, you heard a lot about it today.
Yep.
We have millions of developers on Postman who are already using us. They're using us as a platform, or they're using us as a client to test APIs. And what they're really doing is they're collaborating through workspaces and collections. And so the API network, specifically the public API network, allows people who own APIs, whether that's an individual or a company, to actually distribute their API and reach those developers on our platform. So that's massive reach for them because it's 30 million plus developers, and the only thing that they need to do that is create a public workspace, and then they're on the network.
Right, it's a game changer for sure for those who are kind of building the API. But also quickly, since we are on this topic, how does the public API network facilitate collaboration with the API community?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a bunch of ways you can think about collaboration, and I think the one that the use case that really sings on the network today for both publishers and consumers, right? Collaboration is inherently two-sided, right? You can't collaborate with yourself. That's just working. That's working alone.
Yeah.
So what you see on the network is me as a consumer. Suppose I want to use an API. We saw an example earlier today at the keynote with Slack. Let's say I want to use HubSpot. Let's say I want to use PayPal. It doesn't matter what it is. When I'm using that content through the network, I'm getting an authoritative perspective, not only how to use the API, but I can actually run the API, make requests along with reading the documentation. And so that type of collaboration, we think about that as you're reusing someone else's work. So when I want to make an API call to HubSpot, which is a CRM, and it's got a lot of capabilities and functionality, doing that on my own versus doing it through a public workspace, it might take me a minute. Doing it on my own, it might take me hours.
Right.
And we actually have use cases published about this with WhatsApp and PayPal. So that's like the key type of collaboration that we see.
Okay. Also, what are the key? What are some of the key benefits for developers who share their APIs on the public API network? Because I'm pretty sure they would feel that okay, we're doing something on the public space. Now, what's the benefit? You mentioned about obviously having it in public makes it easier. Obviously, everyone can view it, and it won't take you hours, but it can just take you a few minutes to get there. Any other stuff that you would like to share?
So it's really two things. The first one is reach, and this is what we hear most from publishers. These two things are what we hear most from publishers. The first one's reach. Having access to the large community of developers who are on Postman calling APIs every day. What they're finding is not only are you able to get new customers, but the customers you already have who overlap with Postman, who are also customers of Postman, now you're reaching them more directly as well. And this kind of feeds into the second thing. So it's reach, but it's also, maybe you could just call it time to first call.
Yep.
Anyone who owns an API, anyone who's publishing an API and they have customers on that API, they want them to get to an outcome as fast as possible. Because let's say I want to build something, let's say I work in restaurant tech and I want to put something on the Uber Eats marketplace. The faster I'm able to do that, the better off people who are ordering food through Uber Eats are. The better off Uber is, the better off the consumer is, the better off the end buyer is. And so everyone kind of wins in that scenario. So it's really those two things. It's reach and it's speed.
Reach and speed, definitely very important for all the developers out there who are working on APIs. But also want to know a little about what are the criteria for an API to be included in the public API network. Is there something that you can share with our audience today?
Yeah. So we take a lot of pride in this, actually. Anyone can be on the public API network. You don't have to be a large company. You don't have to have 1,000, 100, whatever customers. You can just be starting. You can just wake up one morning and say, I want to build a new product, and my product is going to have an API component to it, and then you could launch it on the network as soon as you're ready, and anybody can do that.
Nice.
And I think one of my personal favorite examples is the amount of content that I see put on the network, not for the purposes of selling a product or, we talked about reach, we talked about speed, but a lot of people use it for education. They use it to teach, future developers. And so for a lot of people, their first experience with an API is actually happening on the public API network.
Right.
And they're doing it as part of some course that's been published there. And I think, our mission is 100 million developers, and training the next generation of developers on how to use APIs is a big important. We're shipping our product into the future, so that's a big part of. It's a big part of our plan there.
100 million is huge. You're already getting there. I think almost 30%.
Third of the way there. A little
Yes.
over a third of the way there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. Also, since we are on this topic, I would love to also know about how does Postman ensure the quality and security of APIs listed in the public API network, because that is something which is very important to the developers out there too.
So trust is really important. So I was just talking about community content, and you heard in the keynote earlier, Abhinav announced this. It's now generally available. You can apply for a blue badge.
Yeah.
And it's important. You don't pay for a blue badge. You can't just get a blue badge. You actually have to own the API.
True.
And the reason why that's important is because when you're just getting started out, maybe you want to use Zoom's API, right? If you type in Zoom on the network, there's the actual Zoom video chat client, but then there's lots of other workspaces, collections that have the word Zoom in them that aren't actually the authority. They're not Zoom. They're not the authoritative owner of that API.
Yeah.
So seeing that blue check mark, it's such a small visual cue, and your brain kind of just processes it subconsciously. You're like, oh, this is the real thing.
Real thing.
Let me click on that
True.
one, and then it's actually Zoom. And then the way we do that, of course, is we make sure that you own the domain. So you have to own the API domain, which we're able to tell through DNS.
This is fantastic. I think that, we heard it in the keynote first, and I think it's like a game changer for everyone out there to just see what's more authentic and just feel more confident about working in the environment.
Yeah.
Also, quickly.
Authoritative is one of the words we use as well.
Yes.
The authority. Yeah.
Authority, right. Also, quickly, want to know about the future. Looking forward, what can we expect? Any new features that are dropping by? Anything that you're planning to announce? I know that there have been already so many announcements.
Yeah.
But how are you planning to work in the future?
So a lot of announcements today. We had an announcement 2 weeks ago. We acquired a company called Orbit.
Orbit.
Right. For those who aren't familiar, Orbit helped developer API companies nurture and grow their developer communities. We talked before about reach, and we talked about speed.
Right.
Helping someone distributing an API on our network grow their community, reach their community, know when they're doing a good job serving their community, right? A lot of this is about serving your customers, is incredibly important to us. As I said before, that's one of the top things publishers are asking us for. So I feel comfortable connecting the dots on that one on the show between that acquisition and that goal and what publishers want. So you could look forward to more there.
Fantastic. Yeah. This is great. Noah, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you, not only just today, but I think we connected on the day 0 as well.
Yeah.
And you have such great insights, so thanks for sharing all of those. I'm pretty sure our audience would have a lot of questions for you after this too. So where can they reach out? Is there LinkedIn, Twitter? What's the best place?
Hit me up on LinkedIn. Let's go with that. That one's easy. You can just find my name and Postman, and then I'll reply.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Noah, for doing this once again.
Great meeting you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.